Welcome to this LoadTrek webinar. We're going to wait one more minute. We have a couple of people that are signing in right now. So while we're waiting, we'll be taking questions at the end. This is going to be a very short instructional webinar. We're not going to waste a lot of time here. I want to be respectful of your time, but we should have time at the end for a couple of questions. So send those to info@loadtrek.net. It's the address you see on your screen, info@loadtrek.net, or put them into the chat box. So we'll wait 30 more seconds and we will begin. I appreciate you attending. Thank you very much. My name is Joel. I'm with LoadTrek, and this is another one of our weekly webinar series. So to kind of leading up to this, we've talked about dispatching systems. We've talked about payroll quite a bit. But today I'd kind of like to take it back to basics a little bit. Today I would like to bring it back to basics, and let's just talk about dispatch systems in general. So specifically, we're going to talk about automating your dispatch systems. And again, if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, I will answer every question. But the first two I will answer in the webinar. So please send them to info@loadtrek.net or put them in the chat queue. So the biggest question is why? Why bother with automating dispatch? And look, virtually everyone these days has some kind of a dispatch system. Sometimes they're homegrown. Sometimes they're as simple as an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. Sometimes they're more sophisticated. But you do have to wonder, in some cases, have we gotten to the point to where our truck drivers and our dispatchers are becoming data entry people? So the reason behind today's webinar, why we're doing this, is to just ask you the question in your company: does it make sense to find a way to automate your dispatch so that drivers and dispatchers can get back to productive work? So as I look at the list of attendees, I see some private fleets, I see some for hire fleets. We'll keep this as general as possible, but hopefully we can answer that question. Let's lay the groundwork a little bit. So most fleets do some kind of tracking. Could be simple GPS tracking, vehicle tracking. It may be tracking with a tablet or an app on a phone. It could be an advanced telematics system, an old-fashioned trip recorder, vehicle video, dash cams, and in a lot of cases in North America, ELDs. Here's the deal with vehicle tracking, and that's my background. That's where I grew up. Vehicle tracking, whether it's tablet, an app, GPS, ELD, whatever it is, it gives you a sense of reality, but it's reality without the plan. So you can see what's happening, but maybe you don't know what's supposed to happen. And when you're responsible for 5, 10, 15 drivers, 5, 10, 15 trucks, your brain probably knows what reality is. But when you become responsible for 50, you get to the point where you can't remember or don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So any sort of device in the vehicle, we call telematics, but any sort of device in the vehicle, be an app on the phone or a tablet or GPS tracking, tells you reality, but it doesn't give you the plan. Meanwhile, a transportation management system, or a TMS, which, by the way, is another word for what we used to call a dispatch system. A dispatch system gives you the plan. It allows you to plan out your work or plan out your loads. Geofences and arrivals and departures and rating and billing, but a dispatch system by itself doesn't give you reality. You created this great plan, but what's really happening, and what we're trying to do today is explain how a complete automated TMS actually works, and what it is, simply put. And there's a lot of words on the screen, you can read them, but simply put, it's Reality versus the budget. And in today's environment, whether you're a for-hire fleet or a private fleet, there's a lot of cost pressures. This is like nothing I've ever seen. A lot of pressures running a fleet these days. And expectations or budgets are very important. When things happen outside of the budget, surprises are never good. And that's especially true right now. So I just want to show you a few ways where we can make things a little simpler by making load planning simpler, increasing efficiency in the office, and allowing you to respond quickly to problems. We're going to cover the first two today. So a lot of customers, and this number will vary by customer, but load planning becomes really, really simple. It saves you at least half the time of a normal or conventional dispatch system or do it manually. So here's how this works. I'm just going to walk you through this a screen at a time. We enter a new load, and we either enter it manually, but there's automated ways of doing it too. If you're working with a broker or a logistics provider, or even a customer, a shipper who gives you this data electronically via an API feed or an EDI, we can handle that. CSV upload. You can even put these loads on a scheduler. We have a little scheduler, a little calendar program. So if they happen 3 times a week, 5 times a month, whatever the frequency is, we can handle that. Either way, we're going to get a load into the system. And the old-fashioned manual way is exactly what you're looking at here. We enter a load by giving it a customer, and we also give it a type. And the type is interesting because the type tells us things like how we're going to bill it, and it even helps us match it with drivers so that the right driver is getting the right load. So we enter a new load, and when we enter a load and we're getting ready to dispatch it, it looks a little like this. Everything's in red, it's unassigned, and here we have a 3-stop load, picks up in Wisconsin, heads down to Texas. This is an unassigned load, and this is what the entire screen looks like. On the left, right here, on the left is a box that represents every stop along the way. In the middle is my timeline of how long it takes, and then on the right is my map. So what I'm looking at here is a 3-stop trip from Wisconsin to Texas, 1,050 miles, 16 hours and 3 minutes of drive time, and an additional 4 hours of wait time. So I've just planned my load. Next, we're going to give it a driver. So when I hit the sidebar, on the left, I'm presented with a list of my available drivers. I simply select my driver. Everything is green. I'm dispatched. That's it. Everything is green. I have a dispatch load, and your job is done. Your work is done. Go take a coffee break. Or probably what will really happen, you might take a short break, and then you'll go back to the real work of hunting down a backhaul or checking in on some drivers or checking in on some customers. That's all it takes to set up and dispatch a load. It's that easy. And it's no more complicated for the driver either. And I'll kind of explain how. So once the driver has the load, and out of route miles for some companies is not a big deal. For some companies, it's a very big deal. But if you think about it, if you have a 90 OR or 10% profit margin, if you can reduce your out of route miles by 10%, which is not that much, if you can reduce out of route miles by 10%, which is very achievable, you've made a significant impact on your bottom line. And it's quite easy to do because we have set ourselves up with a load. We know where we pick up, we know where we drop off. Deviations are very easily spotted, very quickly spotted. Here we see a route in progress. And let me explain the screen to you. So we've set up the route, we've dispatched it to the driver, and now this is a view of the route in progress. On the left is a map, and on that map is a green arrow. That green arrow represents the vehicle and the direction of travel, and the little flags, if they're blue, the stops have been completed, and if they're green, the stops have not yet been completed. And the red dot on the map is our next destination, where we're heading to. In the middle is our timeline, and this graphically represents that load on a timeline. And in fact, if you look really closely in the middle, you can see where the transition from blue to yellow to green is. That's the current progress in time of our route right now, and we're exactly on time. The transition line is right on the timeline. So the left is the map, in the middle is our timeline, and then on the right is a more traditional, every bubble, every box represents a stop. Blue have been completed, green has yet to be completed. So this is a route that's in progress, and then this is a snapshot of a route from yesterday that's completed. And this is a simple two-stop load we picked up at a terminal. Made two stops, one in Maryland, one in Massachusetts, and then we went back to a terminal in Massachusetts. And that's what a route looks like when it's completed. Everything is blue and it's done. And that's actually it. That's all the work that's involved. So how do we know that everything we assigned the driver actually got done? Now many systems will allow you to check in using geofences, but many times these geofences are human drawn, hand drawn, and they're not that accurate. Accurate geofences are the key to making this whole thing work. And automated intelligent geofences equals automated arrivals and departures. Let me explain. Accurate geofences is the answer to our problem. And the way we get there is we intelligently track vehicles as they make deliveries or as they do activities. Doesn't even have to be deliveries, but as they do activities within a certain geographic location, we learn where those activities take place, draw a geofence around it. And this geofence can change over time if the activities change. And this very precise geofence is the key to automation. And here we're looking at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Buffalo, New York. And you can see that even though the hotel takes the entire block from Pearl to Main and then down to Mohawk Street and then up to Huron Street on the north, even though the hotel takes the whole block, all the vehicle activity happens in that northwest quadrant. Therefore, that's where the geofence gets drawn. That's the key to making this whole thing automated and work. So when I go back to, let's go back to a dispatch screen, and I'm focusing in on that right panel. You can see that every stop is represented by a box. Again, blue is done, green is yet to be done, and we have a planned and an actual arrival and departure from every location. And as we can see, our planned arrival at the first location, which was the terminal, was 6:15. The driver showed up at 6:01, 14 minutes early. And likewise, the driver was early leaving. Driver was early to the first stop, early to the second stop, and is en route to the third stop. So you can tell at a glance whether our plan is being followed, and that is really the key to running the whole company, is setting up a good plan and just making sure it's followed. So drivers just drive the truck. The driver does nothing more than they would do with any normal ELD system. They sign in, and by signing in, we know which driver's in which truck, and then the driver just drives along the route. If they choose to, and if they don't know the route, they can bring it up on their tablet, but they are not required to interact. If they know where they're going, they don't even have to bring it up. They just do their work and let the system, let the computer, and let GPS do its job. Drivers drive the truck and pay attention to what's going on out on the road instead of being clerks in the cab of the truck. And likewise, dispatchers, because there's so much less manual interaction is required, dispatchers can do what dispatchers did back when I was dispatching, which is take care of drivers, take care of customers, maybe find some backhauls, keep the company running. So it's really that simple. That's how it works. So to get started, if you do not have an ELD, you do need to have something in the cab of the truck, and that something is any Android tablet. And you download the app from the Google Play Store. It's called the LowTrek Android app. And you can sign up to get started at signup.lowtrek.net. So again, if you don't have an ELD or you don't wish to get your ELD involved, you can sign up at signup.lowtrek.net. Now, if you have an ELD, we'd be glad to talk to you. We'll set up your database and connect it to your ELD. Email us, info@lowtrek.net. That's info@lowtrek.net, and we'll connect it to your ELD. So what we're doing here is running the company and getting a complete view of the entire life cycle of revenue within your company. We start with planning the work. We saw that. We start with and then once we plan the work, then we go to executing the work, which is dispatching it to the people doing the actual work, the drivers, monitor their performance. And again, this is all done automatically. And then when it's all done, we measure actual versus planned, and these measurements tell us how to improve things. These measurements are how we do payroll, how we do billing, how we negotiate future contracts or future business. It leads to process improvement and just start all over again. So we've got time for a couple of questions here. So at the beginning of the webinar, we presented you with this email address, info@lowtrek.net, which you can reach us at any time. And let's see what I have here. First question. We are a private fleet with a warehouse management system. Will this connect to our system? And the answer is a qualified yes. Of course, we need to look at your system. But assuming it's built within the last 20 years, the tools exist to connect them together. And how that works is the orders flow from your warehouse management system into LowTrek, very much as they would flow from a logistics provider or a third party, something like that. Okay, one more question here. We've got 3 minutes left. One more question here. How does drop and hook work? So drop and hook, for those who may not know, is just where a driver does not perform the actual activity of loading or unloading. The driver will typically drop off an empty trailer and pick up a loaded, or vice versa, drop off a loaded trailer, pick up an empty. In other words, it's an attempt to minimize the wait time so that we can maximize the driver's 11-hour and 14-hour windows. It doesn't matter what the task is. The point of this whole system is geography and time. Geography and time. So we know when you enter this precise geofence, you're supposed to do something, whether you're backing up to a dock, or if you're a flatbedder going to a crane, or if you're a tanker going underneath the rack. You know, whether you're doing that act of loading or unloading, or whether you're just dropping and hooking in a lot, it doesn't matter. You're presented with a place to go and a thing to do when you get there. So drop and hook works exactly like anything else. I got time for one more question. Will this work with team drivers? The answer is yes, it does. Team drivers, absolutely, and even relay drivers. So if you have regular runs where you station drivers in kind of a Pony Express style system like LTL and some postal and parcel people do, absolutely. So we're out of time. Thank you very much. At LowTrek, we've been doing this since 2003. And we're a system that's designed by trucking company owners. We've been helping trucking company owners and private fleets since 2003. We'd like the chance to talk to and earn your business too. You can reach us at lowtrek.net. You can reach us by email, info@lowtrek.net, and you can reach us on the phone at 877-226-0107. 877-226-0107. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day.